who defends more men than Andrew Tate, I would tell you no institution defends men and protects them more than the WNBA. No institution.
Sophie Cunningham walked into Minnesota knowing exactly what was waiting for her. The boos had already followed her through Portland. Supporters and critics were gathering outside Fever games, and every time Sophie answered another question, the controversy seemed to grow even bigger. But this time, the message was waiting inside the building. Minnesota Lynx coach Cheryl Reeve arrived wearing a shirt that read, "Trans kids belong."
Because the WNBA, two coaches, one of them being Caitlin Clark's coach, the other one being a coach that they just went up against, they were having a game, and at this game, she decides to wear a shirt at the game playing against Sophie Cunningham. After Sophie made the comments about transgender, she wears the shirt, if you can show it on the sidelines, what the shirt says. You know, trans kids, this is it right here. That's the coach. Trans kids belong. They had a conversation together.
Fans wore matching messages in the stands. Demonstrators gathered outside Target Center, and the moment Sophie touched the basketball, the arena made its feelings clear. She was booed again and again.
Checking into the game, goalkeeper Sophie Cunningham.
But then something happened before the game that almost nobody expected. Cheryl Reeve walked to center court and spoke directly with Sophie Cunningham. And after the game, Caitlin Clark was finally asked what the Fever thought about the controversy surrounding their teammate. What Caitlin said was brief, controlled, and much more revealing than it first appeared. This story began when Cunningham publicly supported excluding transgender girls and women from girls' and women's sporting competitions. Sophie framed her position around fairness and protecting opportunities for women and young girls. She also repeatedly said that she did not hate anyone and believed there was room to love everybody. But once those comments went public, the reaction moved far beyond one interview. Supporters began appearing outside Fever games carrying signs thanking Sophie for speaking up. Opposing fans responded with transgender flags, shirts, and loud boos. Then the Seattle controversy exploded. Two teenage Sophie supporters said a Seattle Storm co-owner confronted them over a sign thanking Cunningham for speaking up for girls.
Women activists are set to rally at this weekend's WNBA games in key Democratic strongholds like Portland and Minneapolis to show their support for Cunningham after the Indiana Fever player spoke out against biological males competing in women's sports. They're calling it Sophie Night. This comes after a chaotic and frankly horrific incident this week where two teenage girls, fans of Cunningham, went to the Seattle Storm game versus the Fever and said that co-owner Celeste Keaton cursed at them, yelled at them, berated them for daring to wear pro-women's sports gear. By the way, just XX and XY t-shirts. One of the teens is now speaking out about the exchange that made her cry.
The WNBA eventually fined that owner and suspended her from attending 5 Storm home games. That incident transformed Sophie from a player expressing a controversial opinion into the center of a much larger fight involving speech, fan treatment, and women's sport. The pressure then followed Indiana into Portland. Sophie was booed when she entered that game, but she refused to act intimidated. She said she was there to play basketball and to be herself. She insisted she would not hide or dim her light simply because some people disagreed with her. Then she went out and helped Indiana win. But Minnesota felt different. This was not only another hostile road crowd. Cheryl Reeve had decided to make her own position impossible to miss. Under her jacket was a light blue shirt carrying 3 clear words: "Trans kids belong." That was the public message. Then came the private conversation. Before tip-off, cameras captured Reeve and Cunningham meeting near center court.
At center court, pregame, and yesterday, Cheryl Reeve spent a lot of time talking at length with the media about this topic.
I would encourage anyone to go and listen to Cheryl Reeve's comments, incredibly thoughtful.
With all the tension surrounding the matchup, viewers immediately wondered whether this was about to become an argument. It did not. According to Reeve, both women understood that they had influential platforms. She said they spoke about wanting to educate, acknowledged they shared some common ground, and also had areas where they disagreed. Reeve said the way people handle those disagreements matters. She refused to reveal every detail of their conversation, but described meeting Sophie face-to-face positively.
Before the game, you had a conversation with Sophie Cunningham.
I did.
If you want to share what you talked about, feel free. But
Absolutely not.
More of my question is just how important is it to have those like in-person conversations with people that
I think it's
have
great.
different views?
I think it's great. I think both of us understand that we have platforms. And, we both talked about, wanting to, more than anything, educate. And there are some things that, we have in common and maybe some things you differ on, just like any issues. And I think it's how you handle things. And so, it was nice to be in person, for sure.
And honestly, that may have been the most surprising moment of the entire night. Because online, this controversy has been presented like two opposing sides that can't even stand in the same room together. But when Sophie and Reeve actually met, they spoke directly. No screaming, no public humiliation, no dramatic walk-off. They clearly did not agree on everything, but they still had the conversation. Then the game started, and the crowd delivered the emotional reaction Reeve had avoided. Sophie was booed on her first touch, and the reaction did not disappear after one possession. The boos continued throughout the game whenever Cunningham became involved.
Sophie Cunningham checks in, gets booed, and then right after getting booed, she goes out and she does this.
Loses the handle right to Sophie Cunningham, who knocks in the three and then lets the crowd hear about it.
The Fever are so dangerous spot to make that one. And another sweet spot, Sophie Cunningham from three. You gotta be all
Cold-blooded Sophie Cunningham. And then she gets to the free throw line, gets booed again. Sinks the free throw, but then comes back and does this.
And Cunningham picks it off.
To the sound of boos as she's finishing. Keeps it going. Third quarter, comes in and does this.
Now it's Boston facing pressure. So good in those situations. Three ball, Cunningham. That is huge.
Folks, listening to everybody boo Sophie Cunningham and her just hitting three after three after three after three.
Outside the arena, competing groups made their positions clear. Some signs thanked Sophie. Others supported transgender women. Inside, fans wore shirts matching the message on Reeve's chest. This was the third consecutive Fever game that had attracted demonstrations connected to Cunningham's comments. The controversy was no longer background noise. It had become part of the atmosphere surrounding Indiana wherever the team traveled, and that placed Caitlin Clark in a difficult position. Caitlin knows that almost anything she says can immediately become a headline. A direct endorsement of Sophie's position would have intensified the controversy. A direct criticism of Sophie could have created an entirely different story involving the Fever locker room. So after Minnesota defeated Indiana 108-100, Caitlin was asked how the team was dealing with all the outside conversations. Her answer was extremely controlled. Caitlin said the Fever were handling it excellently. Then she said it was the responsibility of leagues and governing bodies to work with athletes and find solutions. But Caitlin quickly redirected the conversation back toward basketball. She said Indiana's focus was on basketball, finding ways to win, and correcting what went wrong against Minnesota. Then a reporter asked whether she had any further reaction. Caitlin answered, "I just answered." That response will be interpreted in completely different ways. Some people will say Caitlin refused to defend Sophie. Others will argue that she did exactly what a team leader should do. She protected the locker room, refused to turn her teammate into a public argument, and kept the Fever focused on basketball. But Caitlin clearly understood the position she had been placed in. She was being invited to choose a side in front of the cameras immediately after a loss. Instead, she placed responsibility on leagues and governing bodies, then returned the focus to Indiana's performance. That was not an emotional endorsement of Sophie's position, but it was not a public rejection of Sophie either. It was Caitlin drawing a line around the team, and Sophie appears determined to keep moving forward in exactly the same way. She has said the rallies do not consume her or her teammates. She describes herself as someone who loves basketball, loves the people around her, and wants to inspire the next generation positively. At the same time, she has made it clear that she will not pretend to believe something different simply because the public reaction has become uncomfortable. Sophie previously said she would not hide or dim her light because people disagreed with her. That is why the boos may not be having the effect her critics want. Every hostile arena gives Sophie another opportunity to prove that she will not back down. Every rally creates more attention, and every public response from someone as important as Cheryl Reeve or Caitlin Clark makes the story even bigger. The most revealing part of the Minnesota game was not simply that Sophie Cunningham was booed, it was that three major figures handled the pressure in three completely different ways. Cheryl Reeve made her position visible, but still spoke privately and respectfully with Sophie. Caitlin Clark refused to be dragged into a public fight and pushed the focus back towards basketball. And Sophie Cunningham absorbed the boos without changing her position. This controversy is no longer disappearing between games. It is following the fever from city to city, entering arenas before tip-off and forcing everyone around Sophie to decide how they will respond. So what did Caitlin Clark's answer really mean? Was she protecting Sophie by refusing to feed the controversy? Or did her decision not to offer a stronger defense tell us something else? Let me know what you think in the comments.
This person online said, Sophie Cunningham is Riley Gaines 2.0. Mind you, this has nearly 4 million views at this point. Sophie Cunningham is Riley Gaines 2.0, 10 times more bigoted and transphobic, which I take offense to, by the way. Nobody is more transphobic than me, because when they say transphobic, it just really means attached to reality. Again, interchangeable. 10 times more bigoted and transphobic despite looking like an actual trans herself. Isn't it so funny when they do this?
Sophie Cunningham built her Repus on a basketball court. She talks, she competes, she hits big shots, and she never seems interested in shrinking herself to make anybody else comfortable.
Sophie Cunningham set the internet on fire last week by saying fairly non-controversial things, but it's only controversial to the peanut allergy table. That's it. It's only controversial to the players in the WNBA and the peanut allergy WNBA. It's only controversial to them. Most Americans, most people, they agree on this issue. Sophie Cunningham went viral last week for saying that, and she's getting support. Brandy Cruz says, join me, Women Are Reals, Known Heretic, and female athletes for a rally to thank Sophie Cunningham for her bravery. Tomorrow, ahead of the Storm Fever game at 5 p.m. outside Climate Pledge Arena, wear your XXXY athletics gear if you have it. Support Sophie Cunningham, a pregame fan rally.
But in 2026, the Indiana Fever Guard stepped into a completely different spotlight. No jersey, no basketball, no packed arena. Just Sophie Cunningham, a camera in the beaches of Captiva Island, Florida, for her first appearance in the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. And this was not simply a WNBA player posing for a famous magazine. For Cunningham, the shoot became a statement about confidence, strength, and what an athlete can look like away from the court. So let me ask you this. Do you think more WNBA players should get opportunities like this? Comment Y for yes. Just type the letter Y below. Because Sophie Cunningham's SI swimsuit debut shows how quickly the image of a women's basketball star is changing. The shoot was photographed by Catherine Gogan at South Seas Resort on Captiva Island. Cunningham appeared in the 2026 issue alongside other athletes, including WNBA star Nafisa Collier and champion sprinter Melissa Jefferson Wooden. Setting looked calm, warm, and effortless in the finished pictures. But the reality behind the shoot was very different. Cunningham later revealed that the weather was unusually cold and rainy. While she posed near the water in swimwear, members of the crew were bundled up in coats, hats, and hand warmers. Photographs look relaxed, but Cunningham was working through conditions that were anything but comfortable. Cunningham entered the WNBA as the 13th overall pick in the 2019 draft. She began her career with the Phoenix Mercury before being traded to Indiana in 2025. She quickly became a favorite among Fever fans because of her shooting, physical style, and outspoken personality. During the 2025 regular season, she shot 43.2% from three-point range, placing her among the league's most dangerous outside shooters. But her season ended early after she suffered a right MCL tear against the Connecticut Sun. That injury could have made the following months entirely about recovery and uncertainty. Instead, Cunningham's 2026 story became about returning in more ways than one. She worked her way back onto the basketball court. She prepared for a role as a studio analyst, and she made her first appearance in one of the most recognized magazine issues in American popular culture. That is why the timing of this feature matters. Fans normally see Cunningham in competition mode. Her hair is tied back, she is fighting through screens, chasing shooters, and arguing her case after a whistle. Sports Illustrated presented a different side of her without pretending the athlete did not exist. Her height, shoulders, and physical strength were not hidden. They became part of the story. Cunningham has spoken honestly about being 6'1" and broad-shouldered. Those traits are a major advantage in basketball, but she admitted they can create frustration in everyday life when clothing does not fit properly or she feels taller than everyone around her. That is a feeling many athletes understand. The body that creates confidence in competition can sometimes create insecurity away from it. But Cunningham said the SI swimsuit experience made her feel empowered, confident, and comfortable in her own skin. To View Zero, that message gives the feature more meaning than a collection of beach photographs. It is easy to say people should feel confident. It is harder when the world constantly comments on how athletes look, dress, and carry themselves. Women in professional sports face an especially difficult balance. They are expected to be tough, but not too aggressive, confident, but not too loud, stylish, but not distracting, powerful, but still judged by standards that have nothing to do with performance. Sophie Cunningham has never seemed interested in following those rules. Her personality has helped make her one of the most recognizable players on the Fever. Some fans love her. Some opponents probably cannot stand her, but almost everyone notices her. The SI swimsuit feature takes that same energy and places it in a new setting. She is not apologizing for being tall. She is not hiding the strength that helped her reach the WNBA. And she is not acting as though an athlete must choose between being competitive and embracing fashion, beauty, or media opportunities. She can take a hard defensive assignment one night and become the subject of a Sports Illustrated shoot the next. That crossover also matters for the WNBA. Women's basketball is no longer limited to highlights and box scores. Players are becoming broadcasters, podcasters, business owners, fashion figures, and entertainment personalities. The league benefits when its athletes reach audiences who may never have watched a full WNBA game. A Sports Illustrated reader may discover Cunningham through the gallery, learn that she plays for Indiana, and then become curious about the Fever. A basketball fan may arrive for Sophie and discover Catherine Gauguin's work or the broader 2026 issue. That exchange expands the audience without asking Cunningham to become somebody else. And perhaps that is the biggest reason this debut stands out. The photographs are polished, but the story behind them is still unmistakably Sophie Cunningham. The weather was difficult, the setting was unfamiliar, the spotlight was different, but the confidence, toughness, and willingness to accept a new challenge were exactly the same. Cunningham described her athletic build as a superpower on the court. On Captiva Island, that superpower followed her directly onto the beach. Now the question is, what comes next? Could this open the door for more WNBA players to cross into major lifestyle and entertainment platforms? And as women's basketball continues growing, will moments like this become just as important to building stars as what happens during the games? Sophie Cunningham's 2026 SI swimsuit debut was a first for her, but it may also be another sign that WNBA players are no longer being placed inside one box. They are athletes. They are personalities. They are brands. And in Sophie Cunningham's case, whether she is standing behind the three-point line or in front of Catherine Gauguin's camera, she knows exactly how to command attention.